good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. We've got a lot to get to over the next 40 minutes. But first, want to tell you about Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk. They have another great promotion going on right now. They are giving away a pair of snowmobiles for nearly $18,000 in cash the weekend of February 20th. It's your choice what you want, snowmobiles or cash earned daily entries with every locked up jackpot or by redeeming players points on your players card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and family-owned casinos that treat you like family. And Troy, that's a great giveaway. The problem is, once again, it's going to be warm for the next week. It's going to be in the mid to high 50s. So I don't know if you're going to do a lot of snowmobiling this week. Maybe in the high country, certainly not here, down near Denver.
Taking the cash, Eric. We're taking the cash.
You know what? I think the smart move would be taking the cash. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Davis Webb has withdrawn his name from the Raiders head coaching job as it appears Las Vegas is eyeing Seattle offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. So with that, do you think this signals Webb is here? This signals that Webb is here to stay as the Broncos offensive coordinator, or do you think he will still entertain offers to be an offensive coordinator for other teams? And he's already interviewed with 3 teams over the last couple of weeks.
Well, you can only hope so. Last one left, turn out the lights, right? So this morning as we're coming on the show, Pete Carmichael has left the Broncos to join Buffalo with Joe Brady. Joe Brady, if you're not familiar, he was hired from LSU by Sean Payton. He was part of that LSU national championship staff, hired by Sean Payton and quickly rose through the ranks in the NFL. He brings Pete Carmichael with him to work in Buffalo. And so that's a lot of experience out the door with he and Joe Lombardi. Carmichael's title was a little nebulous, kind of like just offensive assistant, but he was one of the internal candidates for the OC job. So 2 things feel like are happening. Davis Webb really believes that Clint Kubiak's likely getting the Raiders job, which is what is crazy about that. That would be his 6th team in 6 years, Kubiak. Tells you how volatile the NFL is and how you can still navigate it even when your team stinks. And he's had some bad luck with teams. But he takes himself out of it. That leaves he and Zach Strief internally. They've interviewed Ronald Curry externally, a guy that has ties to Peyton. But yes, if I had to guess here on a Friday, it means that Davis Webb's going to come back with some kind of additional responsibility. Is that getting to call some plays? Is that red zone? Is that a few series a game? He's obviously would have more impact in the game plan itself. But I do think they should prioritize it because of his relationship with Davis Webb's relationship with Bo Nix.
We've known each other for a long time. I tend to lean on the side of, let's just say, I am cynical. So do you think the timing is a little ironic? I'm not suggesting that Sean Payton is doing anything nefarious, but Curry, the guy that he just interviewed, and I am referring to Ronald Curry to be the new offensive coordinator. He was the Bills quarterbacks coach. He would fill the Rooney rule, right? You got to hit one minority. So Curry gets interviewed, and now Webb, within the span of 24 hours, is taking his name out of the hat for the Raiders job. So now it's full steam ahead for Webb if indeed he was the guy.
Yeah, the Rooney rule is just not working the way they intended. And now, again, Curry might be a legitimate candidate. But too often in these, especially the head coaching searches, you see basically sham interviews being given to candidates, minority candidates. And you can say, well, at least they get in front of the audience. And I agree there's something to opportunity. But you and I have interviewed for things, at least I have, where the moment you open your mouth, they have no interest in hiring me. So like it's a bad feeling, a helpless feeling. You can say you get better from the experience and everything makes you better. But again, at the professional level, it's a little unbecoming to interview jobs you feel like you have no chance for. Now, I would say with Curry, at least he has ties to Peyton. There's a connection there. So it's not just like, oh, this guy's got no shot. But correct, when you connect the dots, that's why it was made very clear by members in the NFL that Webb was not going to immediately become the offensive coordinator. Because remember, the Broncos several years ago were involved in a suit with Brian Flores and how he was interviewed and the nature of those interviews. So I can guarantee you that it was not a coincidence that when Lombardi was canned, the first thing that was said was that was independent of Davis Webb. We're going to interview people, making it very clear we're following the rules here.
Webb, you can make the case, has some options. I don't know how strongly he is being considered for these offensive coordinator positions. But if he is seriously being considered and he thinks he is potentially on the brink of getting a job, do you think he says to Sean Payton, Sean, love the opportunity that you've given me, but unless I can call the plays full time, I'm walking out the door just like Carmichael?
Eric, I think you raise a great point. I believe he has to leverage his situation.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times in life do we have leverage? I've only had it a couple of times in employment where it really did help, where I'm like, hey, you got to give me this or this. I'm just not going to leave my current position. And in Webb's case,
yeah, but Troy, when we decided to do the show together, I lost all my leverage when I said, Troy, you're my number one choice.
Yeah, it wasn't this show. It wasn't this show.
It was this show.
No, it was another point in life. I had a minuscule bit of leverage when I left to do TV because I was happy at the Post. And they're like, the Post is dying. It's like, I know, but I cover the Broncos, and that's not going away. So I had a little bit of leverage. But in Davis Webb's case, Eric, would you rather be the offensive coordinator of the Broncos, the Eagles, or Ravens?
I would take any job that allows me to call plays full time, because that gives you the leverage if you are going to be a head coach someday. If you are just nothing more than someone who helps with the plan, how does the team that is hiring you to potentially be their head coach, why would they say to you, you know what, we're going to hire you as the head coach and to call plays? You haven't shown any demonstrated ability to do it.
Visionaries, that's how. They'll put him on a video game, play Madden. Very clear. He's the guy. I would push back because the Eagles' job for me is so dangerous. It's such a slippery slope. Because Sirianni's in trouble, obviously, again. And it's crazy to say, given his overall record, and he's a year removed from winning the Super Bowl, but every other year his staff's a mess. And if you go in there and Jalen Hurts doesn't figure it out and you have to deal with A.J. Brown, you're getting fired after the season.
Do you think A.J. Brown is honestly going to be on the Eagles next year?
I think it's more than a 50-50 shot because of the contract. It's not, I mean, if they had a choice, he would not be, but it's not as easy as just moving him and taking that. A lot of teams aren't crazy like the Broncos of taking huge dead cap hits. And he is a really good player in a market. If you looked at the free agent market this year, it's Pickens, Alec Pierce. Like, it's not a great time to be out there looking for a replacement. But if I'm Webb, I somehow try to navigate the idea or perpetuate the idea. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, MVP, new coach, stability for a couple of years. Sean, you got to give me something here. I got to call some plays. I got to call red zone. I need something on my resume. Just being your assistant, even at 31, which is amazing when you think of the hierarchy of the NFL, it's not enough anymore. And it's not enough to call it in a preseason game. Like, you've got to give me real responsibility in game. And I've talked to a couple of different people about that this week. And while everyone that I've talked to over the last few weeks agrees they'd be surprised if Sean Payton gave up play calling, they do think he might be flexible in how he adjusts the role with Webb. But no one really seems to know what that means. Again, Eric Bieniemy's back with Andy Reid, and he gets to call some stuff. Nobody believes it's his offense. But is that the solution, Eric? I just think at this point, you got to keep him in the building. You got to keep him in the building for Bo Nix's continuity and his development. And he's really good at what he does behind the scenes. So I would make an effort to keep him in the building. Because that would be, don't you think, how would that look, Eric, if he leaves and you're Greg Penner and he leaves for an OC job? It's different if he's a head coach. If Davis Webb leaves to be the Eagles OC or the Ravens OC, what are the optics of that?
Well, at the end of the day, that's up to Sean. And really, it's up to Penner to say, listen, we don't want to lose this guy. But let's role play for a second. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm the owner of a franchise. I'm looking for a new head coach. right? And you are Davis Webb. And let's say Sean allows him to call plays. You know, my first question for you is, tell me the plays you called. And how are you going to answer that?
Right. Well,
Give me some demonstrated ability. Tell me the plays that you called that worked, and I want to know the plays that you didn't call. And that makes a messy interview process.
I'm scrounging up practice clips in that preseason game against Arizona, baby. Look at this. Look at that throw to Evan Ingram over there. He was never used after that. I knew how to use him. Yeah, it's hard. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. And if he's not calling plays here, I don't know that he stays anymore. I don't. Now, but I wouldn't have said that before the season because of his age. But now that Lombardi's gone, Carmichael's gone, the expressway toll is clear to that position for him. And so, but I don't know that he wants it if he doesn't call plays. He likes working with Sean. He really does. He thinks it's made him a better coach, the way in terms of him wanting to be a future head coach. But to your point, that's not a great resume when I'm scrounging up practice clips from Hulu high school video clips.
Right.
Here's me calling my plays in high school when I was in Texas in 2015.
I would be remiss if we didn't bring up another injury for Aaron Gordon.
Oh.
He's now going to be evaluated in 4 to 6 weeks for a hamstring injury. I think this is like the third time he's been injured in the last 8 months. We've had too many discussions to count about MPJ, despite having a big statistical night last night. You know, the Nets lost. I look at Michael Porter Jr., all due respect to him. He needed to go for a lot of different reasons. The Nuggets certainly capitalized far more than Cam Johnson. Let's look at who else they got because of that trade. They picked up Tim Hardaway Jr., who has been terrific, scored 25 last night, picked up Valanciunas, picked up Brown.
Right.
But what we said a lot about Michael Porter Jr. was this. It's the worst contract on their roster because they are not getting the value in terms of production for what they're paying. Is it fair to say, and I understand that Aaron Gordon is a terrific player, big part of the championship, fan favorite. I mean, he is a man among the people. All you have to do is go back to that video after they won the championship when he was out in Lodo. With all that said, they could be saddled with this contract for years as he is on the wrong side of 30 at this point. And he has 3 years left after this season, including his player option. And they are going to be hamstrung. Excuse the pun. I didn't even mean to say that. They're going to be hamstrung with that contract if he cannot stay healthy. And no one is going to trade for him.
Yeah, he's Mr. Nugget. And I remember when I wrote last year in their playoffs, was this the last stand for Aaron Gordon, thinking that he was the guy they were going to have to use as a trade piece because they had such a diminished view of the trade market of Michael Porter Jr. But you fire Calvin Booth and you're able to trade MPJ. And I'm happy for MPJ's success. I am.
Me
but
too.
To your point, he had to go. They had to get a bench. Your bench can't be Russell Westbrook in home games. That was their bench last year in the playoffs. But I said this last year that when you get a springy, bouncy player like Gordon, who's been in the league 12 years, leg issues become problematic as you get into your career. It's not like he plays below the rim consistently. He still plays above the rim, and that's a hard thing to do as you age. And now, if we're being fair in the full window of it, what's more concerning, he had 3 calf injuries last year and now 3 hamstring injuries. So you're talking about 6 leg injuries in the span of 9 months. That's a lot. Now, I will say this. I saw this on Channel 9 yesterday, so I want to give full credit. He hasn't spoken to the local media yet that I know of in terms of the print media and the Denver Post, because Bennett Durando does an amazing job on that beat. But in this interview, he said something interesting, and I'm just going to put it out there what he said. He said the loss of his brother, who died tragically in a car accident, has affected his body, basically the symmetry of his body, that he's holding stress in his life, that he literally said, it's changed me. And I'm holding stress in my life, and that he believed, this is what he said in this interview, That's what's caused his injuries. It's basically like I've got bad energy in my body, and it's causing these issues. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one. I'm closer to Dr. Seuss than I am a real doctor.
I would agree.
But Eric, is that a reason for grace this season for him? And I do think, that's a simple question because of something he went through in his life that he believes is impacting him. But the second part of this is, I think they should have regret on how they handled him. He shouldn't have played 30 back-to-back minutes. I know David Adelman has said he passed the stress test, but I think, and I've been bullish on Adelman. I don't think he's made many bad moves. I think he got greedy playing Gordon on that back-to-back after playing 33 minutes. And I think, hindsight, they regret pushing him that hard, even if he passed the stress test. So, but I'm just saying, in hindsight, I think they pushed him too quick, too fast.
Let me give you a short-term view from the fans. If Aaron Gordon can't play, look at the way Peyton Watson is playing. The problem is Peyton Watson more than likely will not be on this roster next year because he is going to get quite a contract when he enters the free agent market. So you might be able to have Peyton Watson for this year, but you're not going to have him next year. And Aaron Gordon is a year older. With that, I'm going to give you kind of an apples to apples with what Aaron Gordon talked about. Back in 2015, when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, if you remember, Demaryius Thomas was dropping a lot of passes, a lot of them, and he was getting booed at home. And I pulled Demaryius aside and I said, why do you think you're having trouble hanging on to the ball? And he said to me, Eric, I'm having a difficult time concentrating, knowing that my grandmother is a free woman. It shook me to my core because I'm thinking, fortunately, I cannot relate to that. Most people cannot relate to that. So for Aaron Gordon, so this type of stress is affecting him physically, where for Demaryius, it affected him mentally.
And remember, the sad part of this story is he bought him the vehicle. He bought his brother the vehicle in which he was killed. And I can only imagine. I talked to Gordon last year about just how his teammates have supported him and how he's become such a huge figure in his nephew's lives since the passing of his brother. But that's a heavy weight. Again, it's not just that his brother passed and he was such a big figure in his life, but he did it in a way with a vehicle that Aaron had purchased for him as a gift. And so, maybe like last year, it's all happening so fast and you're just not even compartmentalizing it. And this year, maybe you're like the off season and it all just, we've all had incidents in our life like that where you finally slow down and you're like, whoa, this is heavy stuff now. And I don't have to operate physically. My job's mental in 99% of capacity. So I hope for Gordon that maybe this time, and it's another 4 to 6 weeks, he's going to be missing basically 2/3 of the season when it all comes down to it. But maybe he can catch his breath, reset, reframe expectations for the season because it's a lost regular season. But no one's going to care if he's fully healthy and plays his best basketball in the playoffs.
Right.
So that's the out. So I'm not ready to say it's the worst. It's a tough contract because of the age. It was always going to be. But I'm going to give him grace this year and see what it looks like when the season's over. If he comes back again and he gets hurt again, then there's real questions of what does this look like going forward? And would you try to package him? Would you move him? Would you try to move Cam Johnson to keep Peyton Watson? Those are all discussions down the line. But
Would you try and move Cam Johnson to free up space?
Yes.
I would too. And honestly, even if it's pennies on the dollar, you got to make that move to get the contract off to keep a young Peyton Watson.
Well, what I would do, Eric, I would just say, hey, screw it. It's not my money. Go into the freaking second apron. How much money do you need? Like, that would be my advice.
Do not go into that second apron. It is so punitive. You will kill your franchise for years. I would never recommend going into that second apron. You will destroy your franchise. I understand thinking I'm a long-term guy in everything that I do. You're not?
They got to win a championship with Jokic. Why do I care as a fan if it costs them more money? I don't care.
It's not about the money. And Stan Kroenke, honestly, is the furthest thing from cheap. He is willing to pay if necessary.
Players.
But I don't think it is a smart business move to go into that second apron, especially, and listen, I think the Nuggets, when fully healthy, are the best team in basketball. I do. I don't know if you feel that way. I feel that way. Now, there's a caveat to that. They can outscore anybody. Defensively, they have to have the same mindset that they did when they won the championship. Whenever they felt like playing defense during that championship year, they would absolutely lock you down.
Well, the caveat's they're never healthy. That's the problem. They're never healthy this year. I do think when healthy, they can beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, but they're never healthy. We don't know what it looks like. And the quiet thing that people don't want to say out loud is part of the reason they're 10-6 without Jokic is they're way better defensively. How are you going to integrate that with all these pieces and play the defense you just asked for? Because they're not the defensive team that wins championships when Jamal and Jokic have been on the floor over the last year. They're not. So how do you fit that? You obviously need Jokic back. I'm not saying that. But they've got to figure out how to be functional defensively when all the parts come back. And I don't know what that looks like because Gordon was a big part of that.
Well, they've shown they can be more than functional defensively during the championship season. Green wasn't some terrific defensive player. They have better defensive players on their team right now. They have Bruce Brown. And
it happened 3 years ago.
What's that?
You're talking about something that happened 3 years ago in sports. I'm talking about when you watched them this year. What did it look like when they were healthy? They have issues defensively. They still that's what I
defense is effort, man. I don't want to hear anything else about it. It is effort.
It's not effort. It's
no.
It's guys holding back to score. They have to sacrifice stuff because of their offense. They can't do both. It's not effort when you get to an older point in your career. It's not. Because the more effort you exert defensively, you hurt yourself offensively.
They have enough firepower off of that bench to score.
They should.
They do. It's not should. They do have enough offensive firepower to score. They don't need to score 150 a game. I mean, Hardaway doesn't play defense that well. As long as he scores. Peyton Watson, terrific defensive player. Gordon, maybe not as much as he used to be. I get that. Christian Brown, when he is healthy, he certainly struggled when he came back from injury. Murray's not a great defensive player either. Valanciunas, okay, maybe, but they have guys who can play defense. Bruce Brown, pretty good defensive player, and he can play multiple positions.
And Spencer's a good defender. Well, where's he going to play when they're healthy? He's probably their second best defender. Where's he going to play when they're healthy?
You find room for him.
He's not playing. That's my point. He's not playing. The defensive team you're talking about won't exist when the parts come back. The problem for me is that what's Christian Brown going to be when he comes back?
Right.
He is not right.
No.
When he came back, I was like, oh my, and I thought maybe it was just mentally trying to get over a hurdle. That didn't look right at all. And he is a good defender. He struggled at the end of last year, but I think part of that was usage. But it's a great problem to have that we're talking about fitting guys into what could be a championship team. But I do think they have some uncomfortable questions they're going to have to answer with what is Gordon going to be? What is Brown going to be? Because I love the depth they have now, but I don't know. Do you really think, and I'm going to ask you this question now, it's not fair in February or close to February. Can they win a championship if Brown and Gordon aren't healthy?
They're going to have a real difficult time.
Okay.
Because Gordon was a big part of the championship team.
100%.
Okay. And those are two defensive guys. Right. And when you look at the championship team, was Jokic a great defender? No. Gordon was. Brown was a pesky type of.
KCP was really good.
KCP was terrific.
Yes, he was good. And Brown has the capability of being that, of similar defender. And he just has not shown it this year because he's hurt.
All right, coming up after the break, I want to get into the article that you wrote for the Denver Post. Terrific column. Why Ray Bourque raising the Stanley Cup could inspire the current Avalanche team. Now, I am not suggesting this is like the Lincoln Kennedy thing where, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy and Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. But there are some similarities there. But those similarities were also there for the Broncos as well as they tried to head into a Super Bowl title possibility. That's next.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hottakes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 five-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. Don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of snowmobiles or nearly $18,000 in cash the weekend of February 20th. It's your choice what you want, the 2 snowmobiles or the cash. Earn daily entries with every locked-up jackpot or by redeeming points on your player card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hottakes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 five-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Troy, you wrote a column called Why Ray Bourque Raising the Stanley Cup Should Inspire the Current Avalanche Team. With that, the Avs are struggling big time, specifically in their last 2 games against the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. Another loss and a blowout loss last night, just like it was in Ottawa. Avs have won 2 of their last 6 games in regulation since January 12th, but even great teams, let's be honest, do have slumps. So with that, why can Bourque's story, which happened 25 years ago, inspire the Avs?
I just want to thank you. I found the person that read the column. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you raising your hand.
No. It's been read 10 times because I read it 10 times.
They're 4-6-2 in their last 12.
Yeah.
It's been an ugly stretch, and they've been blown out multiple times during that stretch. They were always going to have a hiccup. So I say it's indigestion more than consternation at this point, because they're still, 8 points ahead of anyone in the standing. So it's no reason to panic, but they're showing signs of things that we used to complain about last year, where defensively miscues, not paying attention to details. But as it relates to Bork, I talked to Bork last week, and 25 years ago, the iconic moment, Joe Sakic hands the cup to Bork after 22 seasons. He raises up the Stanley Cup and kisses it, and he becomes, but people forget, this is the part about the Bork story people forget. They're like, oh, he traded for the trade deadline and he won it. No, they traded for him in 2000, and they lost in the finals, as you pointed out last night when we were going back and forth for the show. They lost to Dallas in a 7-game series, and Bork decides to come back. And then during the trade deadline that year, they get Rob Blake. But to point, how can it inspire the current Avs? Bork was telling me how it committed to small details, that everything was about the championship, no selfishness, and we're all together now, no complaint, no excuses. Very similar to the last year. Remember, the Avs tried to fix the airplane while it was in the air. The Mikko Rantanen thing hung over them forever, and they got good value. Nekis has been a nice player, but it was just too many moving parts. And now Brock Nelson is playing out of his mind. He's got 22 goals in his last 28 games.
Yep.
The guy's playing insane. But their defense is shaky. But how can it inspire him? The Avs got eliminated by the Stars. And I think both teams got eliminated by the Stars in back-to-back seasons.
Correct.
And so how can it inspire him? Well, there's one way. Brent Burns. He's a 40-year-old defenseman in his 22nd season.
And what was Bork? What was Bork? 40 years old, 22nd. So if you believe in all that numerology stuff, kind of like with the Broncos a little bit, right? It's the 10-year anniversary of them playing in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara. This is the 25th anniversary. There are certain anniversaries that mean something, like in a marriage, 10-year, 5-year anniversary, 10-year, 25, 50. And in this case with the Broncos, it was similar. With the Broncos, their offense not great this year, wasn't great 10 years ago. Defense outstanding this year and 10 years ago. The similarities are there. They just fell short, and I think all of us would agree Bo Nix not playing played a major role in that, far more than the call going forward on 4th down.
Yeah, it just hurts because they had it there. I would not have picked them to win the Super Bowl against Seattle, but it was all lining up. 10 years later, the same characteristics of the team and playing in the same stadium, Santa Clara, Levi's Stadium. So that's why when I was doing the Bork story, it was always going to be how the loss to Dallas could inspire, you regroup, and one's not enough for this group. I think we can understand that, right, Eric?
Same thing with the Nuggets.
You can't have McKinnon and McCarr in their full prime.
Right.
2 goalies. I mean, last night, notwithstanding, Wedgwood was awful by his own admission. But you can't have this group together and win one, right? And that's why I'm like, at some point, one's not enough. One's not enough for this group. And I look at it, I'm just doing that story, and I'm like, holy crap, Burns is 40, and he's in his 22nd season?
Right.
Same as Bork. Now, he doesn't have the gravitas of Bork.
No.
But he's still a very good player.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Right, exactly. It's not like he's just some guy. You don't play till you're 40 because you're just some guy. I mean, obviously, Bork's his numbers in the rafters, and he was here 15 months. But Burns is really good, and you're hoping that it's just touchstone moments. Maybe it's just Gabe. I mean, I'm just saying, I put out because of the symmetry of Burns. Maybe it's just you want to win one for Gabe because of the hell he's been through the last 5 years. Right. You want to see your captain stand on the table, captain, oh, captain, and win it for him. Whatever it is, one's not enough. And my only concern is they're not playing well, and then they're going to go into this Olympic break, and 2 things can happen. You can reset, and McCarr and McKinnon win and add to their legacy with a gold medal, or it gets squirrely there, some kind of weird controversy, whatever, and then you come back and you're just not right. That's my only concern, is like, you don't want to lose the rhythm of that start. You don't want to give it all back with a bad 3 weeks. So not worried yet, but man, it's right there, Eric. Right. Wouldn't it be a disappointment if this team only won one? Am I the only one that thinks that way?
Well, it's the same thing with the Nuggets. You only win one title with Nikola Jokic. It's really the same thing. When you look at the greatest Avs players of all time, I think a lot of fans will say McKinnon needs one more cup
Right.
to join Joe Sakic, okay? Or to make the argument, you'd rather have him over Sakic. With that, if McKinnon wins a second title, is he the greatest Avs player of all time?
I believe he will because he's going to win MVP this year. He should.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little pushback on that. McKinnon will never be the greatest Avs player of all time. I don't care if he wins 10 cups. The greatest Avs player of all time is Patrick Waugh. Period. End of story. They had the greatest goaltender of all time. McKinnon won't even be a top 10 player of all time. They have the best goalie of all time, and the only argument against Patrick Waugh would be Martin Brodeur or maybe Dominic Hasek that I covered with the Buffalo Sabres. Patrick Waugh is the greatest Avs player of all time. Now, when you're talking about forwards or centers, then we're talking apples to apples. But still, I would rather have Sakic over McKinnon. I would, and it's for these reasons. We can go through the pros and cons of Sakic and McKinnon. First of all, they are different players. Sakic, great hands, quick shot, but what makes him different, with all due respect to Nathan McKinnon, is Joe Sakic is widely considered one of the greatest leaders in NHL history. That is something that Nathan McKinnon, with all due respect to him, is not. He just doesn't have that type of personality. And I'll give you another apples to apples to that. Do you remember Troy Murray, who used to play for the Avalanche? He played for the Blackhawks, and he was also a captain of the Winnipeg Jets. When he and I did the pre- and post-game shows in Chicago for the Blackhawks, I asked him off camera, if you could pick any player to be on your team in NHL history, who do you think he picked?
In NHL history?
In NHL history. I said, if you could pick any player in NHL history.
You would think it's Gretzky, but
it wasn't. He said, Mark Messier. I said, really? I said, why? He said, because he is the greatest leader in the history of the NHL.
Okay.
So that's why I would side with Sakic. Listen, McKinnon is a bull out there with great speed. No one pushes this guy around. You could chip on Sakic for a while, and Sakic wasn't going to give you a lot of payback. McKinnon is more than happy to drop the gloves if he has to. They play two totally different games. In terms of pure physical skill on the ice, McKinnon is a better player. But you have to factor in Sakic as a leader. I've been told this story too many times, and I'm sure McKinnon would be able to do what I'm about to say in terms of scoring, but I'm not so sure he would do this during a game. Joe Sakic famously, in big situations, would slowly skate by the bench and look at every guy and say, I got this. And you know what? Most of the time, he did get what he said that he was going to do with that type of promise. They're two different types of guys.
You ambushed me. I mean, if you're just talking player, McKinnon's going to end up is a better player.
Is a better player. But overall, if you had to start a team, would you rather have Sakic or would you rather have McKinnon? It's hard to pass up that talent. And oh, by the way, Nathan McKinnon has been dominant for the last 3 or 4 years, not his entire career. Specifically, right. If you look at his numbers.
He's still in his prime.
Yes.
But yeah, if we're taking the whole package, Joe Sakic's considered one of the greatest leaders and maybe one of the nicest guys to also play hockey. It's an odd combination. And in that way, McKinnon's not that. He's a guy who grinds gears.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the easiest guy to get along with. He leads in a way that's very raw and very caustic at times. Like he's nowhere. No one will ever confuse Nathan McKinnon with Joe Sakic. And I've covered them both enough now to know that. I'm not around the Avs much, but I covered a lot of Joe Sakic games. And Sakic, you're right. In some ways, it's not a fair question because they won that title with Sakic the first when they came here. He is their John Elway. But if you're saying overall impact, that none of it probably happens without Patrick Waugh. But he's not a player. He's a goalie.
Well, that's a pretty important position. I don't know if they win cups without Patrick Waugh.
I don't think they do. Maybe
Right.
they win. I'm sure they win one, but Patrick was the missing piece. I talked to that 30th anniversary team from Claude Lemieux and Forsberg and those. Every one of them said the same thing. Patrick was the missing piece. And he gave them confidence in a way that was so insane. He did interviews in French and in English. And at the time, I still knew some French from high school. And I've never heard someone talk more arrogantly in my life. And then in English, he didn't know how to use adverbs. So it was the same thing.
Right.
I'm the best. I beat you. Why wouldn't I beat you? I'm better than you.
I have 2 rings in my ear. Can't hear you.
I loved it. I loved every part of it. He was
All right.
so fun to interview.
Who needs a cup more, Makar or McKinnon,
For legacy.
for their legacy?
Well, and both could be, I think, one of the few guys to win a world championship, a cup, and a gold medal. So they've got some legacy things coming up here in the Olympics. I believe it's an interesting question. I would say Makar because he has a chance to be in the all-time great defenseman conversation.
Correct.
McKinnon's not going to be considered an all-time great. Like he's not in that Lemieux, Gretzky, that conversation.
Right.
So I would say Makar.
Listen, just looking at Makar's resume, and he is still early in his career, he's one of only 3 NHL players to win the Norris Trophy, Conn Smythe, in the same year.
Yeah,
The only 2 guys to do that, Bobby Orr, Nick Lidstrom. He's finished top 3 in the Norris for 5 consecutive seasons. You know, I've had this conversation with other people. If you could choose one player on the Avs to start a team, I don't think any reasonable person would not take Makar. And that is far from a knock on McKinnon.
I was watching highlights of Bobby Orr yesterday because of when I was writing about Bork and how Bork was viewed as his replacement. Holy crap, was Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was different, and it was just like, I mean, I always knew why, but it's like watching those highlights, I was like, oh my word. He was just so, an offensive defenseman in ways we never had seen before. And Bork obviously had an unbelievable career, but now Makar, I would again, because of the versatility, the ability to score as a defenseman, it's so unique and that's why it's a legacy play. They need more than one. That circles all the way back. We'll bring it all the way back, Eric. This Avs group needs one more. And this year sets up to be the year.
So who needs it more, the Avalanche or the Nuggets?
Well, I would say that for me, it's the Avs because they're favored. Like they're to me the best team in hockey.
No, I'm not talking about this year.
But who needs it more? I would say if we're talking about legacy, the Jokic does in terms of being a top 10 player of all time. No top 10 player, if you look at that list, has one championship. No, not one. Maybe Will Chamberlain. He was an anomaly about all anomalies. Jokic should be a top 10 player of all time. I don't think he can be that with one championship. So for me, it would be Jokic.
I'll tell you what I think Jokic needs more than a title. And it's unfortunate he probably won't get it this year. If he plays on Sunday, he has to play every game for the rest of the regular season in order to qualify to play the minimum 65 games to win an MVP. And he was having arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest season of all time by any NBA player. I would contend he needs another MVP more than he needs another title.
No.
Hold on.
No.
Hold on a second.
No.
Only 5. Hold on. Go ahead. Well, then just allow me to state my case. I am with you for sure. He needs another title. But if he wins another MVP, only 5 guys in the history of the league have won 4 more MVPs. If that does not put him top 10 easily, I don't know what does. Because that will no one's going to say, or most people would not say about Jokic, they're not going to say how many titles did he win. You're going to point directly to he was the best player in the league 4 times with 4 MVPs. Only 5 guys have done it. Tell me who's better. And the answer is he's easily top 10. If he wins another title, that certainly helps his cause to be top 10 of all time, not unanimously, but by most people. If only 5 players in the history of the NBA have 4 MVP titles, how in the world do you not put him top 10? If he wins another title, the debate is still there. 4 MVPs, there is no debate, or at least there's no reasonable debate.
I disagree with your math. Three MVPs and 2 titles are greater than 4 MVPs because most people believe he should have won the MVP the year Embiid won it.
I agree.
And now recency bias, to your point, 10 years from now, people will look and say, how many MVPs did he win? But for me, the math is 3 MVPs and 2 titles is worth more than 4 MVPs.
Well, you know my pushback to that is, tell me how many All-Stars he played with. 0.
He's playing with 1 this year, Jamal Murray, baby.
Okay. Finally, for the first time, he is. But then, if we're going to be fair about it, if you truly want to make your argument on why they might not win a title, Cam Johnson, injured. Aaron Gordon, injured. Christian Brown, injured. 3 starters right there. Okay? That's a fair argument. I mean, how would Michael Jordan have won a title if Scottie Pippen was consistently injured? The answer is no. No.
Yeah. Well,
MVP is an individual award fueled by teams that are really, really good. Look at SGA. Had no business winning the MVP last year. I am sorry. He's a great player. Jokic is just a better player. And then if you want to make the argument, well, who's most valuable to his team? Oklahoma City last year won without SGA on the floor. Nuggets did not.
Right.
That's what makes this a great barstool debate.
Right. One of those teams needs to win a championship this year. And if I had to guess, if I had to say which team needs to, it's the Avs need to, because they're the best team in hockey when they're right. Nuggets, that you can't really say that. You can say they can win it. You can't look at them and say they're obviously the best team. But one of those teams needs to win a championship this year.
I'll tell you what's really going to hurt Jokic's case is when Peyton Watson walks, unless they find a way to keep him, but then unload a piece, maybe like Cam Johnson.
Yep.
I mean, winning a championship is an organizational thing, right roster, right culture, right talent, all that. MVP, that's are you the best or are you not? If you're the best 4 times, I think the debate is over that Jokic is a top 10 player, and no one will argue any.
Yeah, I just disagree.
I'll take that argument all day.
It's just like quarterbacks. It's a legacy play when you get into the top 10 and championships matter.
I'll throw this at you as well. And I've had this conversation with friends and other media members. Nikola Jokic is the greatest. And now eras are different. Wilt Chamberlain played against centers. The average height of a center when he played was 6'9". Now the average height of a center is about 6'10". Nikola Jokic is the greatest offensive player to ever play this game. Period. Jordan, no. LeBron, no. Russell, certainly not. He was more of a defensive player. Kobe, no. Give me a guy who does what Jokic does on the offensive side of the floor, and I'll wait forever for an answer.
Yeah, it's Oscar Robertson. It's Wilt Chamberlain for certain seasons, but consistently, Jokic has that argument. Correct.
Right. With that, got any big plans this weekend? Are you going to go cover any football games?
No, I need some rest, man. It's been a long haul. My son's heading back to Arizona. He works for the San Francisco Giants, so he's heading to spring training. So we got some family stuff coming up. What about you?
Playing golf on Sunday, and then there's some work I need to do for a new venture I'm going to be starting.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm going to work on it today and tomorrow, and then when I feel comfortable, I might talk about it, or maybe I just won't talk about it at all. But this is something that has been in the works for a while, and I need to kind of polish this up and get this ready to go. So we'll see what happens. And that is to be your babysitter. I'm trying to get my CPR license.
Exactly.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Great first week, Troy. Really enjoyed working with you, and we're just going to continue this starting on Monday. Thanks for watching. Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Make it the best possible weekend you can.